folks, welcome back to My Kitten Reads. I'm Eleanor and this is that time of the year where I talk about my reading statistics for 2021 and give you my goals for 2022. Apologies if you hear cars and music and stuff in the background of this video. I believe the Southern Arts Festival might be happening this weekend, which is a little bit up the road, so things are a little bit more noisy than usual. But yes, my reading statistics and goals. So, my reading statistics for 2021. Let me think. I read 120 books, which was my goal. That's been my goal for a number of years now. Is my overall goal is I read 120 books. That's actually less than the previous year. My goal is always 120. But then also I did not read an entire list of Sean Morgan short fiction this year. So so that's probably why the number is a little bit down, but it still met my goal, so that's great. So my physical TBR. These are the TBR shelves. There are 2 bookcases that are mostly TBR that sit in my bedroom. At the beginning of 2021, I had 148 books. As of this moment, I have 167 sitting on my TBR, I think. I wrote down 166, but I'm pretty sure there's 167 because I'm pretty sure there's one that's not sitting on the shelf that I forgot to pick up. So, that's not great. But then again, I'm never particularly great at reducing my TBR. At best, in the past, I've kind of managed to keep it the same. And there were a lot of Sean Maguire novels bought this year that I haven't read yet, and the usual Owl Crate novels, and yeah. Although, to be fair, 2 of the novels that are on this list, in part of this 167, I did actually buy in January. They were just my belated Christmas presents bought with my gift card. But yeah, basically, as of this point, I have 167 books on my physical TBR. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a lot of reading to do, mate. Okay, so total read was 120 compared to 147 in 2020, sorry. So, out of the 120 books that I read, 109 of them were fiction, 9 were non-fiction, and 2 were poetry. So, both the poetry and the non-fiction figures are better than the previous year, in which I read 1 each. And one of my goals for 2021 was actually to read more non-fiction. Now, most of the non-fiction I read didn't actually come off my physical TBR. There are a couple that I started and haven't finished. But most of what I actually read and completed, a lot of them did actually sort of come off the kind of Goodreads, I will read this one day shelf that I used when I come across a book that I know I want to read at some point, but I need to write it down somewhere, so I just stick it on my Goodreads to be read shelf. So a few of them came off that, and most of them were actually audiobooks. So, and there were some other ones that I just found randomly during the year. But, so I did read 9 non-fiction books, which is better than the one that I read in 2020. So, kind of a goal achieved. In that I read more non-fiction. Goal not achieved in that it wasn't actually the non-fiction that's sitting on my shelf. So, yeah. Short fiction, I read 32 works that involved short fiction. So these are novellas, individual short stories, Uncanny magazine editions, collections, basically anything that involves short fiction. So there's a lot more than 32 actual short stories because there was a lot of Uncanny magazine. But yeah, so 32 things involving short fiction, which was again about half of what I read in 2020. But then, like I said, I did not read a stupid amount of Sean Maguire short fiction. So, so that wasn't too bad. 32 is around, probably around normal-ish for me. I read 5 graphic novels. So short fiction and graphic novels do actually count in my fiction to me because they're fictional. Only poetry and non-fiction don't count as fiction to me. But so I read 5 graphic novels, which is a little bit down from 2020. I read 9 in 2020, 5 in 2021. Basically sticking to my usual graphic novel series. And I haven't I've read the first of the new what are they called? Ms. Marvel ones. I just haven't gone further yet. And also I haven't really been in town much, so I haven't been going to the comic shop. So I haven't really been buying a lot. I could get them digitally, but I just wasn't really a lot in the mood for graphic novels for some reason. So anyway, five graphic novels. So in terms of the gender of the authors / editors, I read 31 books by male authors, 76 by female authors, and 13 that are both / unknown. So both means, for example, Uncanny Magazine, which has male, female editing pairings. Unknown, there's still this one author in Jane Austen variations who I'm not entirely certain. I would assume female, but that I shouldn't assume female because it's kind of a gender neutral name. And I actually do read a lot of Jane Austen variation by male authors. So yeah, I don't want to assume, so they get lumped into that category. I don't think there were any non-binary authors this year. At least one trans author, but that was trans male, so that got included in the male section because that's how they identify, I think. I hope I got that right. But yes, so as usual for me, it's fairly heavily female, more than double. The authors were female to male. That's pretty standard for me. Because I just gravitate towards books written by women. And you'll probably find a lot of the male authors that I did read are probably either award nominations or texts I was set for university, like Charles Dickens and Thomas Hardy. So, because I don't get to choose those. Yeah, so if it wasn't for those kinds of things, I'd probably read a hell of a lot more females. I read 12 audiobooks, most of which was non-fiction, but I did listen to a few mysteries via audio as well as rereads. Any 9 of the books that I read were new to me, and 31 were rereads. So, I still reread a lot. Most of those rereads were probably Pride and Prejudice variations and Miss Fisher. I don't reread as much as I used to. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. I think much of my rereading time involves fan fiction these days. Yeah, so that's interesting. And then we get to the diversity stats, which are half and half this year. So I read 17 books / stories by authors of colour who weren't Caucasian, and I read 17 books on queer topics or with fairly significant queer main characters. So yeah, sometimes they're secondary characters, but for example, there's a couple of the later Miss Fisher novels which I counted as queer because there's 4 or 5 queer characters in those novels. So, and some of who are recurring characters. So those particular stories that had those storylines, I included those. But yes, so in terms of compared to 2020, that's 1 more author of colour than 2020, when I did 16, but less queer stories, because I read 24 queer stories in 2020. So didn't do quite so well that way. So those, like I said, those goals, 1 I achieved, 1 I did not, because my goal every year for those categories is always to improve on the previous year. Although, even the authors of colour goal, the previous year I didn't improve on that. So I improved on last year, but not on year before that, not in 2019. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed with myself with that stuff. In terms of my other 2021 goals, I wanted to catch up on Uncanny, which I did, only to immediately fall behind again. I read a lot of Uncanny, and I did catch up sort of 3/4 of the way through the year, and it was actually like I'd read the current issue. I think 2 issues have come out since then, so I still need to read those, but I'm pretty happy with where I am with Uncanny Magazine at the moment. Yeah, and you know, I'm back at the gym now as well, so you know, I often read Uncanny Magazine at the gym. So hopefully I will catch up on those soon, but I'm reasonably happy with how that goal went. I've listed series. It didn't end up being a huge focus. I did finish the Gail Carriger Custard Protocol series of books, and I am actually caught up on the entire of the Parasol Protectorate verse, having also read the newest of the novellas as well. So I am caught up on that. I am caught up on Miss Fisher, having read the most recent novel, and I have also read the short stories now as well. So I'm entirely caught up on that. I made some progress on Shauna Maguire's, what's it called? October Day series. I think I'm currently partway through book 4. Like that's going to take me a long time to catch up. I just still haven't read the most recent encrypted book either, so I'm not quite up to date on that. And there were some other series where I made tiny gains, like the Glamorous Histories. I read another Glamorous Histories novel, but haven't finished that series yet, that kind of thing. So it wasn't a huge focus, though I did make some progress on some series. So, you know, that was a reasonable goal when it didn't end up being a huge focus for me. And the other goal I had, of course, was non-fiction, and I've already talked about that. I read more non-fiction. I didn't read non-fiction off my actual TBR shelves. So 50-50 on that as well. So in terms of setting my goals for 2022, I do apologize. Fireworks are happening. I thought they'd already done fireworks earlier today. So if you hear fireworks, there's fireworks. Sorry. Where was I? Right. 2022 goals. I'm pulling it back a bit, and I'm limiting my goals because, you know, I'm not always great at reaching goals, as it turns out. So what I'm going to do is I've set my usual target of 120 books / graphic novels / short stories / just reading stuff, official reading stuff. So that's the same. Also, what I want to focus on is improving my authors of colour numbers and improving my significant queer characters or queer stories numbers. So to improve that, I need to at least read 18 of each this year. I would prefer to read more than that, but we'll see how we go. But I do have an idea which may also help, although I'm not actually setting a goal in terms of reducing my TBR. I am folding that into my diversity goals. So our crate in 2021 sent me this lovely little TBR jar. So it's ceramic, it's got a little cork, and the idea, what I've done is I have gone through my physical TBR shelves. And I've gone through and I have written down on a piece of paper, on little pieces of paper that I have scrunched up in here, any book that I found that was written by a person of colour, and any book that I found that I could identify easily from the description or what I knew about the book that has fairly major queer characters in it. I have written them all down on individual scraps of paper. I have crumpled them up. I've put them in this jar. I've shaken it up. And my aim, in order to help my diversity goals, as well as reading things that I already own, is at least once a month I need to select a book out of this jar to read. Whether or not I get them all read in the month, whether or not I finish them, because who knows, there's probably stuff in there that I'm going to get a few chapters in and go, I don't want to read this. Whatever. The idea is to at least have somewhere where I can go and go, okay, at least once a month, I'm going to select a book that's going to go towards my diversity goals if I can get it finished. So that will at least cover, hopefully, 12 books. I could do more than one a month, but this way, by doing it this way, by putting them in here, I already know all the books in here are going towards one or the other of my diversity goals. Therefore, I don't have to go searching. They're all in there. There are actually more in there than I thought there were, because it turns out a lot of the YA that I get in our crate is either written by people of colour or has queer characters in it. So, and there are all the other books that I have bought with that goal in mind as well. So that's the plan. So those are my only goals for 2022. Read 120 books at the very least, and improve on my diversity goals over last year, which means at least 18 books written by authors of colour and at least 18 books with queer themes of some sort. Hopefully also reducing that 167 books on my list. Again, that'd be nice. Anyway, so those are my goals. Those are my statistics for 2021. That's where I'm at reading wise. I have already read 2 books this year, and one of them is already by an author of colour. So yay! Good start. Good start. I'm quite pleased with the 2 books that I have. They've been 2 5-star books. One which was a reread, and one which was new and non-fiction. So yes, that is where I am. If you have goals for the year, feel free to tell me in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and I will see you all again really soon. Bye.